Hello everybody, ciao a tutti and welcome to Art with Ms.B. Today is our video number 8, Italian style, American style. It is so fun to see how different cultures just do details differently. It's very fascinating. Anyway, back to art. This video is going to be focused again on the element of texture, and we're going to use also a shape, organic shape. Now, if you're new to this channel, I highly recommend you to start from the very beginning. In video first, I introduce myself and the channel, and I do 3 practices focus on the element of lines, one of the most important. And then I do other 3 practices focus on the element of colors. And now we are focusing on the element of shapes and texture. Last time, the previous video and the previous practice about texture and shapes, we created something very nice. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to show you when I switch the camera just for a quick review. And we discussed the differences between organic shapes, for example, the shape of a cloud, the shape of a tree, the shape of a hand, the shape of a human silhouette, right? Organic shapes, and the geometrical shapes like a square, triangle, rectangles, circles, whatever. We specifically focus then during the project on the geometrical shapes. We use the element of lines to trace the different geometrical shapes on a piece of cardboard. That we cut off those shapes and we created a design. The design was a train. And then we create a beautiful background, and I personally painted with watercolors. I don't know if you did the same or if you use a different media. With the watercolor, I show you also some like an approach and an introduction to implied texture, right? The implied texture, as we say, is a fake texture. It's the optical illusion of texture. If you paint or draw something on the paper, if you touch the paper, the texture is going to be exactly the same under your fingertip, right? But when you look at it, you have the illusion of something that is maybe soft or liquid or fluffy or hard. And we can do this when we paint, using like a darker and lighter tone, a different type of strokes, or using technique like an impasto that we will talk later on in the future. And then the difference between that type of implied texture and the real texture that was given by the cardboard. So when you actually touch the paper, you can really feel something different. Now, I will switch the camera so I can start and guide you for this project. That is going to be a very nice and interesting practice, very, very good for every level, beginner, intermediate, more advanced, every age. If you're a child, if you're a beginner, try to follow my steps and do what I do, just because it's easy for you to understand the practice and for me to pretend to give you feedback and guidance. If you're more advanced, challenge yourself with different type of textures. I always say you do you. For this practice, actually, you need a regular piece of paper. If you have a mixed media paper, a thick piece of paper, it's okay. But since we're using just a pencil or a pen, I will use a Sharpie just so you can see better because it's darker. We just need even a regular copy paper. Remember also, don't forget to save all the project together in the folder that we are building up. Okay, so I will switch the camera and we can go into the practice together. Okay, guys, as I was saying, this is a little quick review of what we did last time. Remember that we created these geometrical shapes. We create like a design, this case is a train, and then we had fun painting a background, like to show where this train is going. I personally did a countryside inspired by Italy, but also by the environment that I live in. In Utah, we have a gorgeous, gorgeous landscapes and environments. And I talk a little bit how you can use like a strokes with a brush to represent the illusion of the texture of the grass and some dots for the flowers and so on and on. We say that we were not focusing on the technique itself. It didn't have to be a perfect realistic landscape. Absolutely. We also say that this is not like a realistic train looks like, but we were just having a simple practice to show everybody how you can use the lines to trace the geometrical shapes, and you can use geometrical shapes to create a design. If you are a beginner, you could do something exactly like mine. If you wanted to challenge yourself with more complicated shape, you did the right things to challenge yourself and change something. Also, now, when you touch the paper, you can actually feel the different texture, right? And this is the real texture, very smooth on the paper, rough on the cardboard, and there is a level like of thickness. Now, for today's practice, we're gonna save this in our folder. I'm gonna turn the paper like this, just to have a little more space. And as I say, I will use a Sharpie, a black marker, just so you can see better. But at home, you can use a pencil, drawing pencil, or a regular pen, whatever you have available. So I want you to push your, like one hand, we're gonna trace our hand, and don't mind my hand, I always cut myself when I create my when I do my little craft and art, I'm a mess in that way. But anyway, if you are a child, make sure that you press this hand very, very strong on the table, and you don't move it. Don't move your finger. It's gonna tickle, but don't move it. You proceed as close as possible to your hand. Don't move the finger, even if it tickles. When I do this exercise in school, I have so much fun because, believe it or not, it really tickles, and many students, mostly the youngest one, are tempted to move their fingers. So when we lift up the hand, they always have a very weird shape. So you can also ask your parents to help you and just press your hand and hold it like that while you trace it. And 1, 2, 3, that's my hand. Now we're gonna have fun, and we're gonna call this the textured hand. We are going to use each finger to represent a different type of texture. Remember then, when we will touch the paper, the real texture is going to be the same. But when we look at the fingers, we're going to have 5 different impressions of fake implied texture. Let's start with the thumb. We're going to do something furry, okay? So let's pretend that you have to create the optical illusion of a fur, something fluffy, soft. You proceed, we start from the base, and you do like strokes. Strokes are like segmented short lines across the thumb. You can go on and do the second level, and as you can see, they overlap a little bit. Let them overlap. And we're gonna keep doing it. So remember, I'm using a extra fine Sharpie because you can see better from the camera, but if you are using a pencil, it's perfectly fine. If you're using any other type of fine markers, it has to be extra fine because you need to be able to see these strokes, these fine lines. Or you can use like a pen, regular pen, whatever you have available. Remember, this is a practice. So sometimes when we do projects together, the project is going to be like a little artwork. Like, for example, last time, a little artwork that you can save, you can frame or whatever. Sometimes, like in this case, it's going to be more like a practice, which we are going to save and include in our folder. If you're new to my practices, I always encourage you to save every single artwork in a folder because we are building your knowledge and your scaffolding. Maybe at the top you can do something like that to increase the idea of fur. You can go back on the side, right? Twist and turn the paper if you need to do so. And then just a little more extra overlapping here and there to increase this optical illusion of something like furry. That's really cute. Can you imagine if we really had a textured hand? That would be so fun and so weird. Now, let's switch for another type of texture, something that students ask me a lot because we use them also when we, for example, draw fish or something like that, the scales, right? So when you think about scales, you think about fish, something like a squishy, something very smooth, right? So I encourage you to do them small. If you are a beginner, you might do these scales a little bigger than mine, or try to challenge yourself doing the scale as small as possible and as close as possible to each other. We are gonna have fun. If you have to go slower, you do you. You can pause the video. You can pause it and then practice at your own pace. You can practice with me and finish a little later than I do. It's totally fine. or you can watch the whole video, speeding it up a little bit, and then you practice at your own time and your own convenience. Whatever fits your schedule and your lifestyle better, it's fine. What it counts is that you are understanding the difference between different textures, the difference between a real texture and implied texture, right? And the fact that we use lines, once again, our dear friend, to create a pattern when we repeat something over and over, and these patterns can give us the optical illusion of a texture. We also notice that we use a shape, the shape of our hands, that we say that is an organic shape, in contrast to the geometrical shapes that we use in the first practice about the element of shapes and texture. You keep tracing all of the scale. This time we started from the top and we are going all the way down to the base of our finger. When we do this type of practice, they're not like, they're still very beautiful, but as I say, they look more like notes, exercises. Feel free to write down notes if you want to write down something that I say, if you want to like, take notes of something. We can write here, for example, fur. We can write here scales. And then you can also write the adjectives to describe how do this texture look like, fluffy and soft, maybe smooth and hard. Now, let's create something that can give us an idea of rough, something rough. For example, a brick in a medieval castle. And so, my friends, for my students, the beginner and the children, when they love to draw castles. Who doesn't, right? So now you're learning that actually you can use the texture that we are just about to create to make your castle even more realistic, better. After you trace this horizontal line, and as you can see, they're not perfectly geometrical. They are a little like organic, like natural. Then we're going to trace our vertical lines to create the illusion of bricks. Notice that I alternate, right, the position of these vertical lines to represent the bricks. Very well. Now that we have these bricks, we are going to use something that we call the cross-hatching, that we will go like back on in the future when we discuss the element of value. But anyway, let's write this brick and I'm going to show you on the top. We're going to do like a diagonal strokes, so lines, and then diagonal on the other side, the other way. So we cross hatch something. Let me just refocus. There you go. And now we proceed to decorate our bricks. You don't cover the whole brick, but you can kind of just give it a little bit of texture, implied texture here and there to represent the roughness of the bricks. So when you will look at this pattern, they will remind you like a real brick, more or less. Now with the Sharpie, it's not like a super easy to shade or do something, but I think that is very good for you to see. You proceed carefully and you decorate all that. So when we do this type of practice, this is why it is important that you don't lose it and you save it in a folder, because it's something that you can always look back at. You will open and you say, okay, today I want to really draw a castle. Let me review what we learned together, what I learned with Ms.B about the texture. How can I give my castle a realistic look, or how can I make it like interesting? How can I show different type of texture on the bricks, on the walls, and etc. So this is a good way to do it, right? Now, let's do something spiky like a cactus. I love cacti. I'm really a cacti. I'm obsessed with cacti, which is such a weird plural, by the way. And we first design the spine lines, and we're gonna make them as close as possible to each other on the side. And then as we go in the center, we can kind of make them just a little farther apart to create that optical illusion of something like a three-dimensional and well-rounded. Then we go back and we do them as close as possible. As you can see, they are not perfectly geometrical. They have to be natural. Now we add the spikes, small strokes here and there. We take care of the sizes first, like the side, the silhouette first, and then we're gonna add some spikes in the center. Talking about cactus and cacti, I love the desert, and so I visited several times the Joshua Tree, the national park. I don't know if you ever been. It's fantastic. It's gorgeous. Anyway, over there are so many different type of cacti, and the one place in particular, I don't remember the scientific name. There are these beautiful, beautiful light acid green tiny plants of cacti everywhere. So it was a beautiful moment, almost the sunset, and I was taking some picture with my husband there, and there were some other tourists, of course. And they have like signs everywhere that they say do not touch the cacti, right? And at one point I was taking a picture and I heard a really like something like screaming. I thought that was a dog barking. I'm not joking. You know the tiny dog, then they do something like that. And we turned around like all of a sudden and we saw a tourist there that touched the cacti. And unfortunately, a piece of the cactus got stuck in his hand, and it was like really probably very painful because he was screaming. And then his wife, or the lady who was with him, tried to remove it from his hand, and she got attached to the things as well. And so she was also screaming and crying. That was kind, painful for them, and kind of fun to watch. But just I say, if there are signs that say do not touch the cacti, there must be a reason. So that's it. That's my little story about the cacti in Joshua Tree. But anyway, I love cacti. They are resilient plants. They can live in the harsh conditions. They remind me some of us, some of the humans, resilient, that we can live in very tough, hard conditions. So you can add as many spikes as you want. In my case, I think I'm fine. And do not touch. Just in case. And now let's do something that could be something like a rough but still smooth, like something, sorry, soft but rough. And I'm thinking about burlap sack. Okay, and also this is going to be extremely good exercise for all the type of lines that we have been exercises in the first practice. So we start with vertical lines. Once again, pretty close to each other. They don't have to be perfect. You keep going down, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Now we go horizontal. You can even like move the paper as I like to do, mostly because as a left hand, the left hand people, we need to be creative when we write. I taught a semester of calligraphy and I had to practice so much in order to find for me a good position to hold, a good way to hold the calligraphy pen, because the first practices were a disaster, as you can imagine. But anyway, so this is why I move my paper around a lot. I move my hands around. So if you're left-handed, you know that you have an extra challenge to face, but you will be fine. Now we go with the diagonal line. So once again, cross-hatching. 2, 2, 2, and let's make them very close to each other, but do not scribble. Do not be tempted to scribble, mostly if you are a child in the beginning that you get anxious to finish this pattern and you start to do like that. Don't do that because it's not going to give you the same result. Okay, so just diagonal straight lines, and then we do diagonal on the other side. to make it very, very rich. And now to create this illusion of a burlap, we can do some of the spikes exactly as we did on the cacti, just a little less, right? Because it's a fabric. There you go. And we write the name. Burlap sack. Okay. Now, this is our beautiful, beautiful texture hands. And this piece goes inside the folder so you create your journal with all the notes that you need to, okay? I'm gonna switch the camera for a proper goodbye and a quick review and reminder. Okay, today was a very quick practice compared to the previous one that was longer because it required more steps. However, it was an extremely, extremely good exercise. So this is my texture hand, and just took a quick review of the steps. So we use a line, organic line, to create an organic shape, so which is our hand, and then we use a different type of lines repeated, so patterns, right, that we learned on the first, second, and third videos with me, to create different implied textures, right? So far we had two practice, and now you're all able to understand the difference from a real texture and implied texture, different type of implied textures, so different type of patterns that can give us this optical illusion of something soft, something maybe shining and hard, something hard and rough, something spiky, something that is rough. Okay, and then we also review the difference between organic shapes and geometrical shapes that instead we use the previous time to do and talk about shapes. We are going to put together these two pieces, these two artworks, and place them in our folders. If you have like a paper, plastic folder, a box, anything that can work as a folder, or if you don't, just grab a piece of big paper, any paper, fold it in half, write your name, our folder 2023-2024, and you start to build your foundations, and you start to build a sort of portfolios, right? That is something that you can always look back at when you need to review. Oh, let me review something about the texture. I don't remember exactly how can I do this type of texture. Or let me grab my color wheels to make sure that I use the right colors, right? So I really hope that you like this practice with me. Remember to subscribe to my channel to spread the word if you like the content. I always apologize for the quality of the audio and videos. I will, at one point I will replace my computer and the quality of the camera will be better. However, I am very, very, very proud and happy about the content because I think that I'm just giving my best during these online lessons. I'm making as much as possible and as close as possible to my lessons in class, in person with my students. Remember to add a comment, just to say hi if you want, or where are you from, or if you have questions, I would do my best to answer you. And I will see you soon with the video number 9, and I'm not gonna reveal what we are gonna do, so it's gonna be a surprise. So we are gonna still focus on elements of art, okay? So I hope you all have a great day, and I see you all soon. Ciao a tutti!